drop links and engage with you all. And in the end, we will leave room for some questions. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is a little quick overview for our discussion today. First, we're going to talk about why people choose to go to college. If you don't see a reason on the next slide, we would like to hear from you. Next, we're going to be talking about the different transfer options. And then we're going to give you an example of how to read the cost of attendance. And we're going to end the webinar with steps to degree completion. And we're also going to go over some useful resources and tools that will play a crucial role in your transfer success. Next slide, please. So first, let's talk about knowing your why. So why go to college? It's a subjective question depending on who you ask. My reason may be different from yours, and yours could be different from another student. But here are some of the most popular reasons why people choose to go to college. People choose to go to college to expand their potential earnings, explore different career options, discover, learn, and to do what they love, explore their identity and potential, gain some practical life skills, meet new people from around the world, travel and study abroad, experience independence, and gain some financial responsibility. Regardless of what drives you to attend college, it's important that you know your why. Knowing your why simply means understanding why you're doing something before you're going to do it. And your why is going to serve as your guiding principle. Now, if anyone ever tells you that going to college is an easy task, it's not, but knowing your why will motivate you during times of doubt and frustration. I encourage you to take 5 minutes after this workshop to write down your answer on a piece of paper, tape that piece of paper somewhere where you can see it, and use it as a reminder throughout your journey. Next slide, please. All right, so before we go into transfer options, I'd like to share some terms because currently enrolled community college students could apply as freshmen, transfer, or even graduate applicants. So it's important to figure out your eligibility as soon as possible. If you're planning to apply for an undergraduate degree, you can apply as a freshman or as a transfer applicant. Freshman applicants are students who are currently in high school or have graduated from high school, but have not enrolled in a regular session at a college or university. Transfer applicants, on the other hand, are students who are enrolled in a regular session at a college or university after high school. Students can apply as a sophomore, junior, or senior standing. Again, when you meet with your advisor, ask them what standing you're going to transfer at so that when you're ready to apply for admission, you know exactly what you're going to put on your application. And depending on the school system, some schools are semester while some are quarter. Regular sessions for a semester school are fall and spring, while a regular session for quarter school is fall, winter, and spring. Summer sessions are considered as special sessions. Now, based on that introduction, we're going to test your knowledge on the next slide. Okay, so we have the first scenario for you. Kim is currently enrolled at a high school and a local community college. By the time she graduates high school, she will have 60 UC transferable units. When she applies next year, will she apply as a freshman or as a transfer applicant? You can drop your answers below in the chat, and I'm going to give you guys a few moments here. Yeah, so as Fabian said, your options are A or B. You can drop your answers below in the chat. Okay, got it. Okay, so the answer is A. Kim will have to apply as a freshman applicant. And this is because she will not graduate high school before the time she applies. Now, if she graduated early and her diploma shows that she did, and she enrolled in a regular session at a community college, then she can apply as a transfer applicant. Now, a quick note before the next question. If a student attends a college summer program immediately after graduating from high school, this doesn't make them a transfer applicant. Additionally, completed college work while in high school is still considered as a freshman applicant. So that was like a little hint before the next scenario. Okay, so we are on to scenario 2 here. Pam graduated high school in spring 2022. She enrolled at Woodland Community College during summer 2022. During the pandemic, she decided to take a gap year. When she applies for school next year, is she going to apply as a freshman or as a transfer applicant? Your options are A, freshman, and then B, transfer. Okay, I see them rolling in right now, which is great. Good. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little more time and see. Okay, I saw someone say B, unless the summer doesn't count, then A, which you are correct. The answer is A. She's going to apply as a freshman applicant because she graduated from high school and had only attended a community college during a special session, like I said before, and not a regular session. But good job, this one was a little bit tricky. So we're gonna move on to the next scenario. All right, so this is the last one. And give it some thought. Jackie has only attended San Jose City College after she graduated from high school. She has more than 80 UC transferable units. When she applies next year, what will she apply as? And your options are A, freshman standing, B, sophomore standing, C, junior standing, or D, senior standing. And you have the units there in the parentheses to kind of guide you. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of moments. Okay, I see lots of answers coming in, which is great to see. Okay, just a couple more seconds. All right, so a lot of you said C, which is very correct. Jackie is going to apply as a transfer applicant with junior standing. And the key word to note here is only attended. If you only attended at a California CC, just because you have 60 units on your transcript, it does not mean that they are all CSU transferable or UC transferable. So it's important that when you meet with university representatives to ask them about your transferable units so that you know where it is that you stand. In this case, even though Jackie has more than 80 UC transferable units, the UC will only accept 70 semester, which translates into 105 quarter units of credit for lower division coursework completed at any non-UC schools to be granted toward graduation. So that was the last of these questions. I'm going to hand it over to Suba, who will go and talk about transfer options.
All right, let's get started with different transfer options. So as a transfer student, you have many options, but you need to figure out what your plan is from the start. You need to choose where you want to transfer to and create a plan to make sure that you meet the transfer requirements when you're ready to apply. Okay, let's look at the 4 options on the screen from left to right. The CSU system has 23 campuses all over California. The UC system also spreads out across California. There are about 10 campuses, and only 9 out of the 10 campuses will allow you to have undergraduate and graduate education, while the other campus is UCSF, which only offers graduate or professional education. Additionally, there are private universities across California that you can apply to. They are Stanford University, there's University of Southern California, University of the Pacific, University of San Francisco, and many more. And we also have out-of-state schools that you can apply to. For example, you can transfer out of state through the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Finally, there's the HBCU system, which is another option for students to transfer to. Although these schools are considered historical Black colleges and universities, they do accept all ethnicities. HBCU have 101 campuses across the United States. Next slide, please. So whether or not you're already ready with your schools that you want to apply to, we encourage you to do this exercise right here. There are so many different options, so figuring out the one that fits you and your needs requires some assessment. So we have 5 fit factors on this slide over here. The first one, academic. Does this institute serve your academic needs as a learner? Next one, social. Do they have access to the community that you identify with? Next one, Environmental. Do you feel comfortable and secure on campus? Do you like the weather here? Fourth one, financial. Can you afford going here? Do they offer other ways to pay for college? Finally, professional. What graduate programs do they offer? Will the classes you take there prepare you for graduate school? So for this exercise, we challenge you to put the factors in the order of importance. Why? Because for some students, financial factor may be important, but for others, maybe academic. So as you learn more about universities, you can plug in your answer for each of these categories. This will help you refine your intentionality. Next slide, please. As a California community college student, the community colleges provide help to facilitate the many programs that you see on this slide. Depending on where you see yourself at, you might want to capitalize on these programs. They are designed to expedite your transfer process. For example, if you're interested in CSUs, you can take advantage of the educational pathways like the Associate Degree to Transfer and even the CSU GE Pattern Certificate. For students who are interested in both CSU and UC campuses, you might want to consider the I-GET-C pattern. This will satisfy freshman and sophomore level general education requirements before you transfer. Each of the CC campuses have an I-GET-C worksheet that spells out what classes to take. You can download that worksheet and plan accordingly. Now let's look at the UC system. Transfer students have many options when it comes to UC campuses. For example, the UC pathway serves as a roadmap for major courses. 20 majors participate in this program. For UCLA specifically, there is a UCLA Transfer Alliance program where students are certified after completing honors or scholars program at their CC, community college, and given priority consideration for admission to UCLA. The transfer admission guarantee is the only admission guarantee in the UC system. Only 6 out of 9 campuses participate. UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC San Diego do not accept tags. Finally, the HBCU transfer programs also have guaranteed admission. 37 out of their 101 campuses participate in this guaranteed admission when the minimum requirements are met. So you might notice that we did not include private universities and out-of-state option here. The reason is because they all have their own admission criteria. So if you're interested in them, please work with your transfer center counselors. So finally, students who begin at California Community College in fall 2025 or later and are planning for admission to the university by transfer, you can fulfill the undergraduate lower division breadth and general education requirements by completing California General Education Transfer Curriculum, CalGET-C, or by fulfilling the specific requirements of the college or school to which you plan to apply to. Adding the link in the chat so you can learn more about the CalGET-C and transfer pathways. All right, next slide, please. Now let's look at the minimum admission requirements to the CSU and UC systems. Again, we're not including the private and out-of-state universities or HBCUs because their admission criteria are all different. So if you're interested in any of those campuses, we highly recommend that you look at their website along with the transfer center website to see if they do campus visits to your community college. All right, we put CSUs and UC side by side because there are many similar requirements between the two. As a transfer applicant, figuring out your major at each of these universities that you're interested in is the main and most important step, and I can't emphasize that enough. Watch out for terminologies like impacted, selected, or cap majors. For instance, for UC Davis, if your major is selective, you have additional course and GPA requirements on top of the minimum requirement that you see on the screen here. So regardless if you're applying to CSUs or UCs, you must have at least 60 transferable semester credits. My tip for you is to take classes that qualify for both systems. So to determine transferability, you can use assist.org or go to your course description while you're registering for classes. Next, let's look at the GPA requirement. For CSU system, the minimum GPA is 2.0, while the UC system requires a minimum 2.4 GPA. Now, UC Davis requires a minimum of 2.8 GPA for most majors and a minimum 3.1 for engineering and computer science majors. For the CSU system, admission evaluators will look for the Golden 4 requirement. Here, you'll be required to complete oral communication, 2 English courses, and a math course. While on the other hand, UC system requires a 7-course pattern. They require 2 UC English courses, 1 UC math course, as well as 4 courses in 2 of the different areas that you see here, the physical and biological sciences, arts and humanities, and or social and behavioral sciences. Again, you can always use assist.org to determine UC transferable coursework. Finally, one thing to note is that minimum GPA is not going to get you accepted. So make sure you're always pushing for the highest grades possible. Next slide, please. There are other opportunities like the dual admissions program. So let's try to understand the basics. So who can participate in the dual admission program? Freshman applicants are selected for dual admission. If you receive the invitation, you've been selected for the UC dual admission. And if you ask me, what are the benefits of participating in the dual admission program? Well, dual admission is a conditional admission guarantee to a UC campus with a transfer admission guarantee program. Participants are offered extra support that they need from university while they fulfill their transfer requirements. And why do UCs have the dual admission in the first place? So UCs are committed to supporting and expanding access to UC. The dual admission program is designed to help applicants become students. We'll drop the link in the chat so you can learn more. Next slide, please. Okay, another big part of transfer preparation is preparing documentation. The state and federal Department of Public Health will require schools to obtain certain immunizations from students. For example, the UC system currently requires few different vaccines like measles, mumps and rubella, and the COVID vaccine, varicella, tetanus, diphtheria and pertussis, and the COVID-19 vaccine. Students 21 and younger are required to receive the meningococcal conjugate vaccine, and all incoming students must also complete an online screening questionnaire for tuberculosis based upon the CDPH guideline. Additionally, we will need your academic records from high school or college, like your transcripts. And then, depending on the complexity of your academic journey, if you have AP or IB scores, and if you've attended any international schools, private schools, or out-of-state schools, have those records on hand because we will require that you report them. And then lastly, UC expects that all applicants complete their own application material and ensure that the information is complete, accurate, and truthful. In order to submit your admission application, you will have to sign the Statement of Application Integrity. Next slide, please. All right, now let's go over the cost of attendance. Next slide, please. So here's an average cost of attendance. The UC system over here estimates for the 2024 to 2025 academic year. So please keep that in mind. So as much as you prepare for admission eligibility, you should also prepare for how you will finance your education. Here's a quick average cost of attendance across all the transfer options. See, college is an investment, but it's worth it. The UC system has generous financial aid programs and predictable tuition costs year to year that help bring the UC education within reach. Over 70% of our California undergrads get an average of $18,000 in grants and scholarships to help with costs, including UC tuition, food and housing, transportation, and books and supplies. So even if you don't qualify for financial aid, the UC's tuition stability plan keeps your tuition the same for up to 6 years. Tuition stability some semesters attendance are up, and those others you see about 15,000
let me go ahead and jump in here. While we wait on Suba's for some tech issues. So again, the CSU cost of attendance in both is about $7,000, and the UC is about $15,000, and the HBCUs cost around $8,000. In the next slide, we'll teach you how to read the cost of attendance and using UC Davis as an example. So here's an example of the UC Davis undergraduate cost of education breakdown. For this year, for 2023-2024, this is again an estimate of how much it would cost to attend UC Davis. Now, I know there's a lot of big numbers on here, but don't let the cost scare you away. Remember that there's financial aid programs that you can take advantage of, including the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. Now, I want you to take a look at the living on campus residence hall column. The tuition and fees is about $15,000, but the total cost for California residents is around $39,000, right? So I would recommend looking at the tuition and fees as a true cost and using the other categories as an estimate regarding your financial aid, okay? So just be mindful, acknowledging that there's expenses that may not be the same for you compared to your friends. You may get financial aid and still have your parents' insurance. There's factors like what the total cost of attendance in different will facilitate these different estimates. Suba, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. My apologies.
Okay. Go ahead, jump back in.
So, due to the cost of living and inflation, as you know, tuition and fees will also increase. By 2023 to 2024 academic year, UC tuition for California students will be expected to be $13,752. So what is the tuition stability plan and why is it important for you to know? The Tuition Stability Plan is a multi-year plan that started in fall 2022 that sets the UC tuition for undergraduates, both freshmen and transfer students, at the time of enrollment, with the expectation that those charges remain at the same level each following year for the duration of their college careers up to 6 academic years. For graduate students, tuition for new and continuing students will be set annually, but will raise no farther than inflation, essentially remaining flat in constant dollars. The plan helps students and families budget their UC education by keeping UC tuition stable and predictable and providing new resources for financial aid. The plan provides unprecedented predictability for families in helping manage their education goals while allowing the university to provide greater financial aid for the majority of UC's lowest income students, preserve the excellence of its academic and research programs, and expand the enrollment of California students. Finally, the goal of the UC Native American Opportunity Plan is to make college more affordable and accessible for California's Native American students. The initial phase of the plan will ensure that the in-state system-wide tuition and student service fees are fully covered for California residents who are members of federally recognized Native American, American Indian, and Alaska Native tribes. The plan applies to new and continuing undergraduate, graduate, and professional school students in state-funded degree programs who don't already qualify for financial aid that covers their tuition. We'll add links in the chat for more information. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So just like how you're planning for admission by completing major prep and minimum admission requirement for transfer, you should also plan on how you're going to finance your education. We recommend that you use the financial aid calculator at each of the university to do an estimate. In the next slide, we will talk about how you can pay for college. Next slide, please. So our question for you is, how are you going to pay for college? Do you have a plan yet? Here are a few common options that students use: work and save money, while others have educational policies like 529 plans. So 529 plans are when parents save money on the side that can be used for college expenses for their kids. This is a common practice for families that are middle and upper class, since their expected family contribution is higher. Ask your parents to see if they have a 529 set up for you. Alternatively, if you are a permanent resident, U.S. citizen, or AB 540, you can apply to FAFSA or the California DREAM Act. And once you qualify, you may get grants, scholarships, work study, or even loans. Next slide, please. Now let's look at financing your education. So who can receive financial aid? California residents, non-California residents, undocumented students, and international students will all be able to receive financial aid. Financial aid process. So like I mentioned, applying for FAFSA or California DREAM Act can get you qualified to receive grants, scholarships, work study, and even loans. Finally, let's look at the UC financial aid programs. First, the Blue and Gold Opportunity Program applies to you if your family's annual income is under $80,000 and you qualify for financial aid. Basically, you won't pay any tuition or fees under this program. Next, the Middle Class Scholarship provides funding to help middle-class students attend UCs, and it covers between 10 to 40% of system-wide tuition and fees. Finally, the California Dream Loan Program provides eligible undocumented AB 540 and undergraduates with the option to borrow loans to help cover the cost of attending UC. Non-California residents are not eligible for state and university need-based funding. Next slide, please. Now I'll pass it on to Fabian to talk about graduation and steps to degree completion.
Thank you so much, Suba. So in order to have a successful transfer process, students really need to understand how the degree completion works. I've always encouraged students to explore the university catalog of the school of your interest, to be familiar with the requirements. We have split it into a few steps. So step one is really, while you're at the community college, you can take classes to prepare for your major. You also need to take general education classes. So make sure that you're picking classes that are both transferable to the UC system, to the CSU system. If you don't complete an IGETC or CalGETC or an associate's degree of transfer, you will have to follow the general education patterns at the school you're going to transfer when you get there. Step two, once you're successfully transferred in to a four-year institution, you will take upper division coursework, the fall within the major preparation or general education requirements. You will also have to take university or college graduation requirements before you get your degree. Step three is about a year before you graduate. So you have to submit a graduation application to the admissions or registrar's office. At the time, graduation evaluators will process your application by auditing your coursework and the requirements. Then they will provide you, will approve you for graduation. This slide serves you as a map to college, as an overview. To navigate the degree completion, you will also have to be able to visualize the process and all the requirements. So finally, we're going to go look at some resources that you already have available to you at your community college. So be mindful that it may be called something different at each institution. And one of the biggest resources is the Transfer Opportunity Program, but higher education institutions are mandated by the state and the federal government to offer services as long as they accept state and federal funding. So because the California Community College system is a public system, they offer many support programs and services that you can see on the screen. So for some of you, you could use the chat. Let me know if any of these names look familiar. So the California Promise, I was actually a community college student and I was part of the EOPS program. I've worked with a lot of our foster youth success initiatives and student equity, and also our veteran services. So there are many more programs that are unique to your community college that may fall within the major, like MESA, or cultural centers, or programs like Emoja, and some basic assistance like writing or tutoring centers. Now, I would love to hear what services you have used at your community college, and you could use the chat to engage with us. So now, another resource you should take advantage of is the counseling and the transfer center. So the transfer centers actually started from a pilot program back in the 1980s, so 1985. And it was an initiative to improve the transfer success and accessibility to the UCs and the CSUs and independent colleges statewide. The focus of historically underrepresented students. These services were only initiated in 23 community colleges, and you fast forward now, and all of the California community colleges have a transfer center to assist students with the transfer related questions. The transfer centers provide, in some cases, computer lab to assist students during the application cycle. They also host college fairs or college tours throughout the year, along with workshops. On top of that, the center provides transfer counseling. We always recommend students to meet with their community college transfer center counselor or advisor to establish an educational plan and discuss their career and educational goals. We also suggest students to share their educational and transfer plans with their representatives or any university reps during the first meetings. The transfer center really serves as a middle person for the university reps. So if you have already attended any of the transfer workshops, or maybe the webinars or information sessions on this PowerPoint, some of these names should be familiar to you. So if you're enrolled at a California community college, you will need to know how to navigate assist.org. It is a great place to find the UC and CSU transferable courses. It has the articulation agreements and major guides to help you identify what courses to take. So if you're interested in UC campuses, you should create a UC TAP ASAP. So the TAP, it stands for the Transfer Academic Planner. It is the University of California's online tool, free online tool, to help students track their progress. It also allows for UC representatives to do a pre-evaluation and give tailored advising to students. The TAP is also home where we have the transfer admissions guarantee. We love our acronyms here. So TAG, which is another good resource, is on the UC tab under the support program section. You would find many transfer preparation programs at each UC campus. And for Davis, one of them is TOP, the Transfer Opportunity Program. But last but not least, your go-to support should be for transfer questions, should be your transfer center at your community college. Really get to know the counselors and advisors at your transfer center, definitely the staff and the student staff as much as possible, so they can connect you with the university representatives. I wanted to highlight TOP. So TOP, the Transfer Opportunity Program, is a transfer preparation program that brings UC Davis admissions representatives to your community college campus. So there's a handful of community colleges that participate in the TOP program, and we could definitely help you with academic advising, evaluating your TAP, helping you with your TAG, and answering any questions you might have about UC Davis, providing seminars on academic and career opportunities, or in this case, hosting a webinar for you fine folks. Okay, so here are some timelines and dates for transfer students during the busy season, the application season. So as earlier this month, you could get started with the UC application. So if you haven't already done so and you're planning to apply, now is a good time to start chipping away at pieces of it. You're going to have a very busy fall. So if you could answer some of those unique questions like your name, your address, like chip away at these little pieces of information so that you don't get too busy come application due dates. So later on in October, so around the 1st of the month, October 1st is when you could start applying for the CSU. Admissions portals open up for the fall cycle. For those of you that are interested in applying for a winter session or transferring during the spring, I would encourage you to look out for those due dates. They are different per CSU application or per CSU campus. Just be mindful that for UC campuses only that offer a fall admissions, and UC Davis is one of them. While you're looking at, as I mentioned earlier, some CSUs that offer different admission cycles. So just be mindful of that as well. Moving on, September 30th is a tag deadline. So can somebody drop it in the chat and let me know, remember what tag stand for? Let's see. Yes. So the tag, the transfer admissions guarantee, is something that you'll do between September 1st and September 30th. Some UC campuses will review tag and send out notifications around mid-November. UC Davis is actually one of them. So you'll get to know an answer fairly soon. Then moving on to between October 1st and November 30th, you'll go ahead and start submitting your UC and in some cases CSU applications are due. So again, remember for UCs, we could start on it now, but you could definitely submit it during this time period. A few months later, once you submit, the UC campuses have the transfer admissions update, which is usually due by the end of January. It is also the time for you also to create your My Admissions portal at each of the campuses that you applied for. So the CSUs also require an update throughout this portal. So again, that update is really your fall grades and then what you're planning to do for spring. Has there been any changes to your spring schedule? Was a class added or dropped? Was it canceled? So that update mid-January is a great time to let us know of any of those changes. Moving on, the Financial Aid in California DREAM Act application opens in October, so around the 1st, which is usually the priority deadline is March 2nd. So rule of thumb, the sooner you get it done, the better. You're only going to get busier from there on. So please do not wait to submit your application for financial aid. It's really not worth the stress. Moving on to spring, so between March and April, UC campuses will release their admissions decision. CSU campuses usually send out their decisions between February and March. So again, if you've applied to multiple institutions, I encourage you to check your junk and spam folder, keep track of what communications you're getting, specifically admissions related, or if we need unofficial transcripts, or if we're asking for pieces of information, and definitely financial aid updates. And lastly, June 1st is a deadline to submit your intent to register, which is your SIR. You will be expected to log into your student portal and accept or decline the admissions offer. So we covered a lot in this session. So I want to thank you to the 80+ people that stayed. We're going to end our presentation and really just, I want you to take away some things. So again, as Jasmine mentioned earlier, is really defining your why. Why are you going to college? The second thing would be really to discuss the importance of understanding the transfer options and what your community college offers, and really just analyze your fit factors before finalizing your educational plan. The formula for success is doing your research plus keeping yourself organized. Next, be familiar with the admissions requirements and the timeline. Please do not miss any important deadlines, and just be mindful of where you're applying to, because again, they're all going to have different timelines. You're not expected to know everything. This is why we host these webinars, so that you don't feel like you're going through it alone. And you could definitely reach out to, let's say, your UC Davis assigned staff member or rep, and we'll drop the Find My Advisor link in the chat in a bit. So I'm curious. So we've decided, I want to dedicate this slide to you. So please use the chat to drop some tips and I'll read some of those out loud. I am going to move on to the Q&A. So I'll answer some of these questions live. We have about 20 minutes and we'll go ahead and get started. So let's see here. So there's a question regarding your tag application and maybe just running into some questions or having some issues. So my biggest rule of thumb is reach out to the tag, to the institution that you're aiming to tag to. Again, we'll drop the Find My Advisor link in the chat. Let's see here. If I graduate the community college in spring 2025, what can I do to prepare this year? So I think part of that is filing for financial aid, looking for scholarships. There's always something to do. There's always something to look into. So scholarships, I think, would be my biggest advice. The other thing that I would recommend is a good time to start looking at the catalog. Just be mindful that every year there's a new catalog that comes out. So staying up to date to, what am I going to be learning? What are the courses that changed? Who's going to be teaching, right? So that you're getting a preview of what's to come. So there's a resource. Oh, the student was asking regarding a resource to find statistics on the percentage of students that get admitted through the tag. So I'll drop the link in the chat. You could also narrow it down by major. So the amount of students that were admitted into that particular college or that particular major. It's all public information. So I'll go ahead and take care of that in a bit. So there's a question. Let me go, can I apply? So can I apply to transfer even though I will not have completed a few courses on assist.org? So that's actually a great question. Just be mindful that assist.org provides you the options that are available at your community college. Depending on your major, right? Again, if it's selective or competitive or impacted, there's certain coursework that you need to do in order to even apply. But if your institution does not offer that particular section or it's not articulated, then for Davis, we won't hold you to it, right? So if the course is not being offered, there's nothing we could do about it. There's a couple options. You could either look for that particular course at a different institution. You could use something like cvc.edu, the California Virtual College, to find another community college course that's similar to that particular one. You could wait to take that particular course once you get admitted to the institution. So what I would recommend is scheduling an appointment to review what your options are, not only with your community college counselor, but eventually the rep of the institution that you're interested in. So great question. So there's a question regarding how many units, having 90 semester units by the spring, would I be considered a junior or senior? So let me provide a little bit of context. If you've only attended a California community college, you are considered a junior level transfer, right? So because they're only lower division coursework. That includes any AP or IB exams if you took some in high school. Just all of that calculation will definitely consider you a junior level student. Senior level transfers would be somebody that's coming in with units from a different institution, right? So let's say you attended a Cal State for a little bit, then went into a community college, and then maybe decided a whole bunch of units need to get evaluated to see what will transfer over. Depending on the institutions that you're applying to, they would apply those unit limitations to the rule. They will review the rules of their unit limitation and then look at your individual case. So what we do for one student is going to look very different, the way that things are handled with the other students. So let's see here. There was a couple questions y'all asked. Let's see here. There's a question of what are some things that make UC Davis unique? What are some highlights you may have about the school? So I know that Pam's going to answer that question, but Suba, I'm curious, why did you choose that? Well, one, what institutions did you apply to, and what ended up you deciding that you wanted to go to UC Davis?
For sure. So I applied to UC Berkeley, UC Irvine, and UC Davis, and I did get accepted into all three. However, for me, the main reason was the sense of security that I felt. And I come from a brown household, so my family felt that I would be really safe on campus here. And the other reason being UC Davis is #1 research institute. So I was very big on research. So I thought this would be a great fit for me to pursue research as well. So that is why I made my decision to go to UC Davis.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, everyone has their unique experiences and the reasons why, and that's part of the research that you need to do, right? UC Davis is a very centralized school, right? It's a very small town feel. The majority of the people that live in Davis are students. So if you want that college experience, you're going to have to build it for yourself, regardless of what institution you transfer to. So taking that into account, regardless of the UC that you end up transferring to, you're going to get high quality education. I think the factor here is what type of experience do I want for myself? When I was an undergraduate and looking to transfer, for me was proximity to home. So I was close enough to go home on the weekends, do laundry, wash clothes, see my family, but far enough to kind of do my own thing. And far enough so that my family wouldn't just pop up out of the blue. So definitely everyone has their unique reasons why. There's a couple of links that we'll share in the chat regarding what makes UC Davis unique among the rankings. We're definitely very high on the study of agricultural sciences, viticultural, and animal science, to name a few. We're definitely world renowned in our research. So I would encourage you to check out some of those high points. There was a question in the chat regarding if I get accepted to the TAG program. So if your TAG gets accepted and you complete all the requirements without any fail by the spring before you transfer, is there a possibility that the UC application will be denied? So if your TAG was approved and you submitted a UC application that matched your major, so for example, you submitted a TAG application for psychology, you met the requirements, your TAG was approved, you submit a UC application, select Davis, put psychology, then you keep your end of the bargain, then we'll see you in the fall quarter. Now, if there's an issue with the application, we definitely will reach out. So this is why I always remind students, please check your junk and spam folder, because we will send notifications to you from either an admissions email or a no reply. So definitely, keep track of what communications are going out. The other thing is definitely just keeping on top of the due dates, because the due dates really determine our ability to review your applications and make those admissions decisions. But if you keep your end of the bargain for TAG, everything lines up, then we definitely will say see a favorable outcome come April. So there's a question regarding 21 years old citizens, but I do not live with my parents. So again, for financial aid purposes, up to the age of 26, I believe, you're still considered a dependent. So you would need to provide your parent information in the UC application, but we don't use that to make a determination of financial aid or cost. What will is your financial aid application. That will be the factor that kind of will take your parents' information into account. In the UC application, you could list your parent information. You could definitely kind of highlight some of those things, and you could use the additional comments either to provide a little bit of context of why certain pieces of information are being put out or not listed, or if there's a situation that we need to be aware of, or a sensitive situation that we need to be aware of. But you could definitely follow up with us. There's a question of how many schools would you recommend I apply to? That is a personal choice. If you qualify for, let's say, the UC application waiver, you could apply up to 4. If you apply or qualify for the CSU application waiver, there's a handful there you could apply. If you're looking to pay out of pocket, that's about 70, 60, maybe $100 per application. So just budget wisely for those things. But you could definitely make that call. What I would recommend the approach would be is, what are the fit factors that I'm interested in, right? So again, does this institution have the resources that I need? Does this institution have the environments, right, that I'm interested, or the research base, or the clubs organizations, or all of these pieces? So let me drop the fit factors back in the chat so you all could take a look at these. And again, what I'm going to do is I will email all of you a PDF copy of this presentation after we're done. And then I will also highlight the link that you could look when we upload it to our YouTube channels. Oh, thank you, Nancy. We dropped it twice. Awesome. There's a question regarding being at the community college for more than 3 years. I'm letting you know that the 2-year timeline may not be realistic for some of you. I took 2.5, almost 3 years. For some of us, there's certain majors that are going to require a lot of us. There's courses that are sequential, right? So you have to take Calc 1 before you move on to this, or you move on Physics 1 before you move on to that, or Biology, you move on to the next one. Or for some of us, like me, I was working part-time, right? So I couldn't take a full-time course load. So at the UC system, we really value our students. So you could definitely take the time period that it takes you. Just know that if you're taking a year off, or maybe a fall or a spring semester, we will ask why you took that time off. So in the additional comments section in the UC application, you could provide context of what was going on during that time period, right? The way I tell my students is, we really value, in order to be eligible, you definitely need to have the grades in the GPA, the minimum, to get your application read. Depending on your major, we could always strategize, right? Whether the GPA that you have or the units that you have will come out to a favorable outcome for that particular major, or if we need to discuss a different area of study. But again, it could take you as long as it needs to. You just need to have the grades and the GPA. So there's, is there a limit to units that would be allowed to tag? I've taken some upper division classes at the State College. So we'll drop the link for the tag requirements. We did update those for the 2023-2024 cycle. So I would encourage you to look into those, and then depending, you could use the Find My Advisor link for UC Davis to look and ask that particular question. When is the deadline to apply for the application fee waiver? So when you're filling out the UC application, and based on the information that you've provided, it will either automatically tell you that you qualify for the fee waiver, right? So I always encourage students to definitely fill out all of those sections. There'll be a section in the UC application will ask you of resources that you're interested in, or maybe areas of topics. So for example, if you're 25 and over, or you've taken a term off, or you're military dependent, or military affiliated, right? So there's a lot of little boxes that you could check off, and I always encourage students to do so, because the UC application is also a scholarship application. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. Yes, Carter, I will go ahead and email a PDF version of this presentation after. So is there a transfer counselor that you connect with in the Santa Cruz County area? Again, we'll drop the Find My Advisor link in the chat. Let me pull up the chat. I'm not reviewing it right now because I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Okay, awesome. Yes, Victoria, I will send a PDF version of these slides. Suba, I'm curious, can you remind me of your major?
My major is computer science and psychology.
Oh, there's a question regarding like, is the psychology program good? Can you speak to your experience in both of those majors and why did you choose to?
Oh, for sure. So I started as a computer science major when I applied, and I also started to decide that I wanted to double major. So I also started psychology, and realizing that we have amazing psychology professors who publish their own textbook, who do research on campus, I was very excited to start the psychology program. I am actually part of a couple of research programs with renowned professors like Lisa Oakes and Alison Ledgerwood. They do research which is like published online as well, so you can go see their papers and such. And with like the classes as well, they're very good teachers as well, so it's like win-win for me. So that's how I felt that psychology is a right fit at Davis for me, so I just continued and pursued it as a major.
And I'm also curious, did you change your major any time while you were at the community college?
Oh, well, at community college, oh wait, I took 3 years over there, and I did go in as undecided major, and I started off as undecided, and then I went into like computer science, but then I also had psychology in my mind, so I also did some of my psychology requirements. So that's how I did, and you know how many times I had questioned my major? That's like all the time. So please don't worry if you're undecided as well. Always just make sure that you're following your passion. That's what that matters.
Yes, and I think that's a good reminder as we kind of wrap up. There's over 100 questions still in the chat, so I'm sorry that I haven't gotten to all of them. Again, we will host other workshops this fall, and we'll drop the link in the chat so you can look at the other undergraduate admissions workshops that we're hosting. For those of you students that are part of the top transfer opportunity program colleges, look out for those invitations to the other upcoming webinars. But while you're considering UC Davis, you may want to learn a little bit more about the campus, and we really hope that you stay in touch. So please follow UC Davis on Instagram. You could follow UC Davis on TikTok and other social media platforms of your choice. You will definitely get an inside look at the student life and reminders about deadlines and a lot more. I want to hear directly from our students. Again, we will drop the UC Davis top YouTube page, so you could look at this recording, but also maybe engage with the other recordings as well. I want to extend a huge thank you to Suba, Jasmine, Nancy, Jackie, and Pam for assisting in the chat and co-hosting with me in this presentation. You could scan the QR code, it would take you to our main website, and you could definitely keep in touch by contacting us. Have a great evening, everyone.